To something completely different. This week marks 50 years since a landmark referendum when Indigenous Australians were officially counted. It was hailed as a pivotal moment, but half a century on, how much really has changed? As Katie Silver reports, the fight for genuine equality is far from over.
50 years ago, more than 90% of Australians voted yes in a referendum to have Indigenous people counted in the Constitution. Before this, activists say the government knew more about the numbers of pigs and sheep in the country than Indigenous people. By being counted in the official population, it meant the government could legislate for them. This was arguably one of the first notable moves looking to heal the wounds of a population whose land, and in some cases, children, were stolen from them. Since then, there's been some big steps towards reconciliation, including the 1992 High Court decision, known as Mabo, which said they have a right to their lands. And in 2008, when then Prime Minister Kevin Rudd, historically, said sorry.
And we come together today to offer our nation's apology.
No pride in genocide!
But big issues remain. There's a sizable gap in life expectancy, and the population is considered one of the most incarcerated in the world. Last week, Indigenous leaders met at Uluru, demanding radical reform. They're calling for a treaty and a formal body to represent them in Parliament. They say they want real change, not symbolism. Katie Silver, BBC News.
Well, with me is Deborah Cheetham, an Aboriginal Australian opera singer who has taken an active role looking for change. You're very welcome to the programme. Now, I was reading your part of The Stolen Generation that some of our viewers will be familiar with, some will not. Can you tell us a little bit about what that meant for you and for others?
Well, I think, generally speaking, The Stolen Generations was really an attempt to take away the future for Aboriginal people in Australia and Torres Strait Islanders as well. So in 1964, when I was born, my mother had very few rights. Of course, it was 3 years before the 1967 referendum, and I was taken from her at just 3 weeks of age, and that was the story of countless Aboriginal children in Australia.
I was reading it could have been 100,000 children?
Easily that, yes.
And who did you live with then? How were you brought up?
I was taken and then given to a family who adopted me, the Cheetham family, and they were a loving family. My parents gave me every opportunity they possibly could in life, except the opportunity to know myself as an Aboriginal woman. And I think that I guess I could say, look, things could have been much worse for me, because most of the children who were taken were actually put into institutions and sadly suffered, well, all of the kind of abuse that we now hear about.
Did you ever find your biological mother?
I did. I found my Aboriginal family, well, I met my Aboriginal mother, Monica, at the age of 25, so I was just at that stage trying to figure out who I was.
Sure.
And then here I found a mother that I knew nothing about, someone that I'd been told had abandoned me, and of course that wasn't true at all.
So now we fast forward to 2017. What do you think is the biggest thing that needs to change in Australia right now when it comes to equality?
It's a huge question, but I think it is the gap in the knowledge that most non-Indigenous Australians have about our shared history, about the last, 229 years. I think it is the gap in the knowledge that most non-Indigenous Australians have in terms of the very sophisticated and nuanced society that existed before colonisation began. And I think that if I had one achievement that I would like to see in my lifetime, it is for Australians more generally to abandon the fear they have around what does it mean if we embrace Indigenous culture? What does it mean to us? What will we lose? You won't lose anything. You'll gain 70,000 years of knowledge and wisdom and learning, and I think that's something that Aboriginal people have always been willing to share. And you know, for me, it's through the unlikely medium of opera, but the arts more generally, I think, have a role to play. I think that there are many disadvantages that Indigenous Australians have. I mean, we're the most incarcerated people on the face of the earth in terms of percentages. We're not more criminal than anybody else. It's just that this lack of understanding that Australia has, this level of maturity that Australia has not yet achieved in understanding what happened at the very beginning of colonisation. Once we achieve that maturity, everything will change.
Deborah Cheetham, I do recommend you watch her also online for some offering. Thank you very much.